Okay, so here are the rails, and here is our show.
Completely off. Completely gone today. What in the world? Derailed.
Yay, you're here. Welcome to the CK and GK podcast. Let's get going.
It's Tuesday.
I'm still hearing you sing Tuesday. Oh my goodness. It's Tuesday. We're so glad you're here. Maybe it's not Tuesday. Either way, we're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Today, we are talking about ways to avoid the summer slide for your kids. So, if you're a parent, this is going to be super helpful for you as you go about preparing yourself for summer because I assure you, your kid and your kid's teachers are ready. You're not, but they are.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Now I'm on the other side of that game and I am not a
liking it
fan.
as much.
It is not
Yeah.
as fun. No, it is not. Oh goodness. Okay.
No, I have to say I have had such a great school year this year. I don't even have like a countdown. Someone asked me how many days left in the school year and I had to think about it. And my sister, of course, she was like 15, 15.5.
Right. And 2 class periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's that whole thing of like, it's May. So basically, like after Easter, you pretty much start your countdown, right?
Right.
And then it's you just walking down the hallway, seeing a teacher that you only occasionally see, and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And you're like, 60 more
61.
days,
Yeah.
man." Right. 23.
Yeah.
Like you're just saying numbers as you go by, and you're like silently fist bumping, like, "Yes, we can do it. We get there."
I've had
Yeah,
such a phenomenal year this year that hasn't even like hit my radar. So
Lucky
kudos
you.
to my school.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure that there are lots of other teachers who do not feel the same way.
No. And
So,
this
you
is
go.
the first year. Even in all of the other schools at which I've been extremely happy and had a fantastic team and taught with people like Caitlin,
Yeah.
still, there's always a countdown. This year,
Oh, there's
no.
always a countdown.
It's so cool. It's so different. Okay, so speaking of Caitlin, for this episode, we're going to call her Bunker because she's hilarious.
Cheese and rice. It's so cheesy. Well, that's Jenny. Oh my God, these compliments from Leslie Knope. I can't with these. They're so ridiculous. You, Jenny, are a beautiful, naive, sophisticated newborn baby. And I love you. They're so ridiculous. They're so
All that
ridiculous.
makes me think about is Talladega Nights when he's like, I like praying to the baby Jesus. Sweet little 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus.
After the father-in-law tells him he was a man, he had a beard, and then he like intentionally
Yes.
digs the knife in about how he's gonna pray to a
I
baby
like the
Jesus.
baby.
I like the baby Jesus best.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Can you tell it's been a little while since you recorded? My voice sounds like I have like Phoebe and the sexy
Yes.
voice right now. I was so sick last weekend, guys. I could not record. We get on, and I was like, "You should know, Jenny. Like, I'm not well. Like, I'm really not well. I lost my voice the other day." And she's like, "Okay, well, let's try it." And I was like, "Hi."
Yeah,
And
and
she
the
goes,
first thing
"Okay,
is like,
no."
no. She says 2 words, and I'm like, that's not going to work.
Right. She goes, "Okay, no." And then she was like, "I'll see you later." And we both just were like, "Let's try for another day." And she's like, "Okay, bye. Just go."
Yeah. Go take care of
laid
yourself.
in bed. Yeah, I laid in bed for like the half of that day. I couldn't do it.
You
So,
need that throat spray. Do you remember that? That Ludens or whatever? Did you ever
Oh.
have to do that?
I hated that stuff.
I hated that stuff too. My mom would be like, you need that throat spray. Open up. And she would like spray and
So my favorite are the Ricola original.
Y'all, she
cough
is
drops.
Vanna Whiting this product to me right now. She's like literally
They're my
holding it
favorite.
up to the
They could
camera
be
and
my-
like displaying it with her hand.
They could be my obsession, honestly. And one of my girlfriends was
No,
like,
I'm sorry. I'm stopping that right there. There is no time in your life where a cough drop can be your obsession. I am
They're
sorry. It
so
has nothing to
good.
do with age or sickness. There are other things in your life for you to celebrate beyond cough drops.
as she coughs over, like one of my girlfriends goes, if you eat too many of those, you might have some tummy troubles that make you have to run to the bathroom. And I was like, what? Why? I think it's because they probably are sweetened with like xylitol, which can make you have to go to the bathroom. If that's what they have in those Haribo gummy bears that are sugar free.
Yes.
So you have to be real careful with these cough drops.
So that happened to Abby and I. We ate something with
no.
artificial sweetener in it. It was like erythritol, I think is the name of it.
Oh no.
And we were so thankful that where we were, there were 2 separate bathrooms
Oh no.
because we both bolted. And then came back like 45 minutes later and she was like, did it happen to you too? I was like, yes.
Did it happen to you? Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Let's talk about other things, other obsessions, not cough drops. What are you obsessed with right now?
Okay, so for real, I am obsessed with Stanley Cup hockey. You know this about me. You know that I do not watch hockey all season long.
Right.
I do not have a hockey team.
Right.
But I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm obsessed.
And which team are you obsessed with right now?
This year, much like last year, we've picked the Edmonton Oilers to win it all. Last year, they disappointed us in the second round. This year, it looks like they might do it again.
This year, though, they've lasted longer than the Avalanche who beat them last
True.
year.
The Avalanche lost in the first round.
Yeah, it was not.
Sorry
No,
about that.
we were not. I mean, listen, I don't follow
Yeah.
hockey, but I do like the Avalanche because that's where
Right.
yeah, exactly. But, okay, so you're obsessed with that. Are you staying up late to watch games? Because
There were a couple of games that were way past my bedtime, and because I identify as Gen X, or maybe I'm one of these Xennials. You've heard of this? It's like Gen X/millennial.
it's like a 3 or 4 year group. We're both in it. We would
Okay.
both technically count as that.
So I do not define my generation as my birth date because so much of my like pivotal growing up years were spent on an Air Force base, which is like a different timeline.
Right. It's like easily 10 or 15 years
Yes.
back. That's why you grew up watching MASH, because
Yeah.
none of the people our age actually did grow up watching MASH.
It's
Like
like
who?
you and I both taught these kids that they grew up in Australia and then they moved to the US in middle
Yes,
school.
yes.
And they like all of their pop culture references are somewhere between 5 and 7 years behind.
Right.
Like that's how I feel, right?
Because it's you.
Yeah.
Like designing women. Okay,
Yes.
no.
No,
Like,
that's it. That's
no.
it. And John just today, he was like, "Hey, do you want to go see The Offspring?" And I was like, I don't know. He's like, "Everyone from our childhood loves The Offspring. Why didn't you want to go?"
They were a love it or hate it band. I was very much like, this man needs to stop screaming into the microphone. This is not music. You know it's kind of hard just to get. I'm like, shut up, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're so obnoxious. Oh, anyway.
Back to me being old.
Yeah.
I have been drinking Red Bull at 5 o'clock in the afternoon so that I
no.
can watch these hockey games. Which
Oh.
means I'm awake at 1 or 2.
Yeah, no, that's not worth it to me.
I
I'm
need to
sorry.
like adjust my timeline and drink the Red Bull at like 1, right?
Yes.
So like I can stay up till 10 and then go to sleep. But I want to stay relevant and I don't want this episode to sound so dated. But tonight's game is at 9 Central. And I'm like, what is that? This is an hour of hockey with 40 minutes of intermission and that has no timeouts.
No. There have been a few situations where Bryce has stayed up to watch Colorado Buffalo football when they play in Hawaii. And I'm
Right.
like, that's 5 hour-ish time difference.
Right.
And that means that the game's not starting until like 10:30. No, I'm not
No.
doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm too
And I
old.
get that there's people who live on the West Coast, but do they care about hockey?
Maybe they might.
they might.
The San Jose Sharks are out there. aren't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
No, but geez Louise, 9 o'clock.
It just makes me go, I could never live on the East Coast. Like, I could never be a New Yorker because everything is
That
so
starts
much
at
later
10.
there. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm too old for that. Well, once again, I have like a trivial, stupid obsession. Here
That
we
was
go.
me a couple weeks ago. It's totally fine.
It's me like pretty much
I
every
was obsessed
week,
with the
so-
salad a few weeks ago. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, you were. I do remember. So The ads on Instagram that algorithm knows me way too well. And they just get more and more targeted. Being in marketing, I get mad when I click on one. Like, I'm like, one, I don't want to skew someone's numbers. But the other part of me is like, darn it, it worked on me. Like, So I've been seeing this ad for a particular brand of mascara for the past, I don't know, 6 months. And I finally caved.
Is it that Lash Princess? Because I bought that off Instagram.
It is not Lash Princess. It is Thrive Cosmetics.
Oh, you fancy.
Oh my, yeah, I spent too much. I've bought too many things that are expensive off of Instagram, and one of them is a shampoo brand, and the other one is this stupid mascara. I'm never going back to another mascara ever.
Oh, is it so great?
It's so great. My eyelashes get so long. I'm like, this is not. And then
wait, those are your real eyelashes right
these
now?
are my real eyelashes right now.
Oh, I thought that you got them done.
No. So I'm obsessed. I would highly recommend.
Okay, should we move on?
We should.
Should we talk about my favorite thing, the gem of the week? This week's gem comes courtesy of my 4-year-old. And we are working very hard on building my 11-year-old's entry in the cardboard boat regatta at her school. And they float these boats in a real lake with like ski boats on it.
That's crazy.
This is a legit boat. It's not like, oh, okay, we're going to float it in the creek. And, you know, I mean, if you fall out of your boat, you have to swim the course.
No, I'm out. I'm already out.
She and I were the first mother-daughter team in recent school history to be both teacher and student building a boat together.
That's awesome.
It's called the Passion Tea, which is our favorite drink to get together at Starbucks.
Oh,
and the boat is in the shape of a teapot. And none of this is important to the gem.
It's so cute, though.
What's important is we were building this cardboard boat.
Right.
And my 4-year-old desperately wanted to be part of the process. And anyone who's worked with small children knows that you can just give them a task and they'll feel like they're part of the process, right? Like, oh, you want to cook? Okay, I want you to take this bowl full of water and stir it with this spoon. We're going to add a little flour. It's going to get thick. Keep stirring. In this case, I gave him a piece of cardboard and some duct tape.
Oh, no.
And said, what can you build to help our boat? So he folds the cardboard into a triangular prism. And I would like for you to imagine like Dark Side of the Moon album cover. Okay.
Yes.
That type.
You're speaking to a former math teacher who had to teach shapes.
So you know.
So I know. I know a triangular prism.
All right. So he holds it up and says, look, I made a triangle. Now, the math teacher in me is so jazzed about this, right? So I look at him and I say, oh, you did make a triangle. What makes it a triangle? And I'm thinking he's going to tell me it has 3 sides, or it has 3 corners, or maybe he's going to tell me the interior angles add up to 180 degrees.
Sure, of course he's going to tell you
probably
that.
Not.
Right. Yeah.
He looks at me and he goes, it's shape.
It's shape. Obviously, that's what makes it a triangle.
Idiot. Like the shape is triangle.
Mr. Dumas. Like, what are you?
Yes. Well, and also like maybe he's sad for Abby that I'm helping her build this boat and I don't even know a triangle.
And I don't. I love your kids. They're so funny. My gem comes courtesy of our DMs.
Oh my gosh, gotta love it. We get the best messages.
Usually it's
and
like...
listeners, it's not too late for you to send us one at CK and GK Podcast. Go ahead.
Literally anywhere you are on social, we are there. So I get this DM on Instagram, and most of them are like, hey, can I promote your podcast? I see great results. And I'm like, do you? Because you have 14 followers. No, you cannot promote my podcast. So this one was different. It's from a movie. Let me just read the message. Okay. It says, hey there, my team and I are currently in development of a high action, super gory horror movie. And then they name the title, which I'm not going to say. And I was wondering if we could schedule a podcast with you. Me and a couple of actors from the film, 2 to 3 max. We'd highly appreciate it, and we think we would be great content for you and for us. Now, I have no problem with this group of people trying to promote their movie.
Oh, no. John and I just had a date night earlier this week, and we watched Scream 6. Like...
Okay.
I do like a crappy horror movie, but
But I just don't do horror movies at all. But the funniest part of this to me is that we are clearly not
no.
the target audience of this.
When you think of the demographics for a gory horror movie,
Is it too moms? Okay, so here's my response, because I'm not just going to ignore, like, I don't like it when I get these not targeted
right
messages. Like, it bothers
it's
me.
Clearly it's not a robot.
Right. It's not a robot, but it's also someone who hasn't done any research or knows anything about
Absolutely.
us all. So
they
it bothers me.
deserve to be responded to because they're not
Right.
a robot, but
Right.
they also deserve to know that
It was a big swing and a miss. So here's my response. I just said, hi there. We're 40-ish moms and we're teachers. I don't think we'd be a fit for y'all. What was I supposed to say? And then I think I just hit send. And then after that, they're like, oh, okay, cool. And I was just like, be well. Like, bye. Like, what?
the be well.
Make good choices. Like, see you later.
And the be well to me, like I read it in a British accent, like it's Simon Cowell. Like
Cheerio.
Yeah.
I should have said make good choices or something other like super mommy, like be
Yes.
home for dinner. Like it just like it was so random. Like clearly this person has not done like they were just looking for the word podcast and just
Right.
started copying and
Right.
pasting, which is fine.
and
Just
also endearing to me because it shows that when you're searching, we're coming up.
yeah, that's
So
great.
it's like a great thing. But
Right.
yeah, no.
So random. So anyway, that's my gem.
Well, speaking of being teachers, when we come back from the break, we have some important information about how to avoid the summer slide. We'll be right back. Make good choices. And we're back.
Hey, we're here. We're just going to jump right into it. Let's talk about how to help your kid not completely lose their mind and all sense of being in a classroom during the summer.
And
So,
let's be
yeah.
real here. Okay? We are not talking about 2 steps forward. We are talking about 0 steps back, people.
right.
This is not about
Right.
getting ahead over the summer.
No.
This is about staying on track so that when you finish 5th grade, you're ready to start 6th grade in the fall.
Right. For your kids, let's start with some general tips. Yeah?
Cool. Yes.
First one, create a routine. Okay? A study schedule over the summer that incorporates some learning time and some time for fun and relaxation. So the morning time, go for a walk or go for a bike ride or something every single morning. And then we would come back and we would do some coloring. And then we would come, like from that, we would move in and having a snack. And then we made it so that it was predictable for all of us.
Yes.
So we always knew what to expect. And that's not to say that like he always had the same snack every day or he always went on the exact same route for the bike ride. It was that we always knew this chunk of time was going to be dedicated to doing something like that. So if that means that, you know, you're always going to spend an hour every morning kicking your kids out the door, making them go play basketball in the front, that's fine. But it needs to be something that's predictable for all of you.
And you need to stick to who you are as a family.
Yes.
If you are a family that hasn't prioritized reading 3 hours a day all school year long, don't try and do it in the summer.
No.
That kids know when you're faking it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get to where you're reading 3 hours, you have got to build that culture in your family. My family does not read 3 hours together. We cannot do it. But we can read for 45 minutes together, either out loud or separately, independently, what Kit calls in the vegetable reading time, because he didn't say individual. So in the vegetable. Yes.
Oh.
So we can have 45 minutes of in the vegetable reading time, but that's because we've built up that stability in our family. I cannot on June 1 ask my kids to read for 2.5 hours. It's not going to work.
You
It's not
have
gonna
to,
work.
You're right. There has to be some endurance built up there for sure. Absolutely.
So just stick to who you are. And if you're a family that didn't prioritize riding your bikes every single day, don't make the kids ride their bikes every single day for an hour. Start with,
No.
say, this is something I want to do together. Can we start with a 10-minute ride? Let's try 20. The
Mhm.
kids are going to have the physical stability, but still the change is going to be hard. So be true to who you are as a family.
You mean stamina? Is that the word you're trying to say? Or because you're saying stability?
I meant stamina.
Okay, well, we're just gonna go with it. I like that you so I think it works. You build upon things you already know how to do. So with my kids, I would say, okay, we know how to talk out a paragraph. We know how to talk about something. Now we're going to write down our ideas.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to talk about it, write down our ideas, and then organize our ideas. Okay, now we're going to talk about it, write down our ideas, organize our ideas, and then we're going to add in transition words. You don't just force the full paragraph format on them right away. You start out small with those baby steps. So I absolutely agree, building up that endurance for activities that you want them to practice as part of their routine is going to be key over the summer.
It's also not sustainable if you say, okay, you must do an hour and a half of math before I give you the Wi-Fi
Yeah.
password.
You're gonna lose it.
You're going to stick with that for 2 days and then you're going to hate yourself.
Oh man, I already hate myself. Okay, so our next tip is to explore your community. This is a good time to get out and explore community if you can. Now, I'm someone who works now during the summer, so
Right.
I'm going to have to find ways to build that into the routine that we have. So I intend to look for opportunities that are summer camp related where he gets to go to places that
Right.
he doesn't always get to go to. So that's what I've targeted for summer.
And that can be part of your routine, right? If childcare and camp is part of your summer schedule, that's normal.
Yeah.
You build in that to the routine.
Yep. So that kind of goes along with what we were saying earlier about the whole stamina endurance piece. We're going to start setting goals. Okay. So if we're saying, okay, this week we're going to read together for 10 minutes
Right.
side by side, or we're going to read together for 10 minutes. I'll read out loud to you. And then the next week we're going to read out loud for 12 minutes and you're going to read some of the pages with me. And you're going to set goals and you're going to say, okay, by the end of the summer, I want you to be able to sit in your room, or I'll sit with you in your room next to each other, but I'm reading my book and you're looking at your book.
Right.
But that we're going to work on the whole summer getting to that point. So you don't have to worry about doing it on your own right now, but we are going to come to that together. So I think the goal setting piece is going to be key there.
Yep.
And let them help you make that goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, make it social. Make any activity that you're doing, especially learning activities, social. Encourage them to participate with friends or siblings. Think about setting up like a book club for your kids. Put together a little study club. Like when kids on our block are a little bit older, I might say, okay, we can have math club on Thursdays for 30 minutes. And you guys can just come over to my house and we'll practice some math facts for 30 minutes. And then that's it. But then it'll be a time for them to get together. Because I remember like being younger and thinking, man, there's a lot of friends I don't see over the summer.
Right.
So having ways to make sure that you get to see those friends, especially for learning time, it's going to feel much more authentic and a lot less like, oh, my mom's making me learn over the summer. So,
Right.
yeah.
And there's that positive peer pressure piece too,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Hopefully, moms everywhere are going to breathe a sigh of relief over this one. Use technology wisely. Now, let me just say this. Blah, 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 blah. Screen time limits, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wisely means sometimes it's for an hour because I need a break.
Wisely is like, listen, I have a meeting for 2 hours. You can do what you have to do. If you
We
have to
are
parent-
recording midweek on an
Right.
evening. What is my son doing right now? Watching
Yeah.
TV. Well, my
Right.
husband coaches football and I come and record.
Whatever. It is what it is. You do what you
Right.
have to do. Now, are there ways to make that technology time more beneficial?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, there's tons of apps out there that can help you practice, or not you. You might need the practice, but help your kid practice math and reading and writing skills. We like iExcel. We like Khan Academy. Khan Academy is always going to be free, so there's that. We like ABC Mouse, which is a paid subscription, but it's still a good one. And you can always cancel it after a couple of months anyway if you're not using it again during the school year.
And there's
tons of
outschool
them.
classes.
Oh, tons of those too. And they're so great. Oh man. So like for my son and his like kids Kindle, I can set it up so that he has to do some sort of learning activity for the first 15 minutes before any games open up. And then the
that's
whole
cool.
thing shuts off after another 45. So he only gets an hour of screen time with that, but he has to spend time on it with reading. Or right now he can listen to like Audible all he wants to, or
Right.
he can read as many books as he wants, but he can only spend like 45 minutes playing games and
That's
stuff.
nuts.
Yeah, it's
Welcome
really
to
helpful.
the 20th century.
I know, right?
21st,
Amazing.
I mean.
I did agree with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and
Oh.
so the tip that I have that I feel like is very important, not just for the summer slide, but in general, is to normalize learning for learning's sake.
Oh,
I know you are dog tired in the evening. I am.
mhm.
And I know that the weekends get booked up with sports or clubs or driving the taxi cab, minivan around. So I get it. I understand. But model intellectual curiosity. Ask
Yes.
questions that you don't know the answer to and discover the answers together with your family.
I love that.
You can read an article, and if it's something that you don't think the language is accessible to your children yet, go ahead and read the article out loud and let them notice words and say, okay, you know this word. What does this word say? And talk about it.
I think it's Newsella.
Yes.
Newsella is a really great resource for stories. Essentially, the idea is you look up a news article on Newsella, and then if you need to change the grade level
Yes.
for the reading,
They can
it
level
will
the
help
text.
you. It will level the text for you. So you can have a sixth grader who understands a very complex subject with an article that's written just for a sixth grade reading level. So it's totally worth looking into that. And I think my favorite answer to questions that I truly don't know the answer to is to straight up say, I don't know, let's go find out together.
Right.
The number
right.
of times that my child has asked about a certain animal, like right now he's curious about lice. Mom,
Well.
can cats get lice? That's a great question.
I don't know.
I'm
Let's
sure that
find
they
out.
can, but let's go look it up. Like I just, what I mean?
Yeah.
There's little things. By the way, he doesn't have lice. I just have to say
Yeah,
that.
no, he doesn't have lice.
He does not have lice. He's just curious because there's somebody at school who does.
Who
So
does,
he's
yeah.
very concerned. Okay.
So Abby and I spend anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes in the car together each day, driving
Right.
to and from school.
right.
And sometimes it's a Taylor Swift sing-along. Okay?
Nice.
I'm not going to say like I'm one of these moms that's like, oh my gosh, we're learning every minute of the day together. No.
Mm-hmm.
But there are sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this podcast with you. It's a really interesting topic. Let's do it.
Yes.
And so this week we were listening to veganism. Is it
Uh-oh.
is it healthy? Does it align with our evolutionary history? And this is a podcast that is pretty PG. It's okay for my kid to listen to. And together we're discovering something. And we
Yeah.
can pause it and chit chat a little bit, then press play and keep going. And it's learning for learning's sake. Neither
love
one of
it.
us is vegan or planning to become a vegan, but it's really interesting to learn about.
There's a couple of really good kid podcasts that I really like. One of them is called Tumble. It's a science podcast for kids. One of them is called But Why, a podcast for curious kids. Brains On is another good one. There's some other really, really great ones. Brains On also has one called Moment of So there's just some really great ones for kids, and you could model listening to that together.
Right.
And then ask questions and learn together. I think that's a really cool idea.
Okay. So reading and writing and arithmetic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a social studies teacher, I would always tell the kids, like, your parents probably don't care about my class because I'm a social studies teacher, because they care about English class and they care about math class and they sometimes care about science, but they don't care about mine. But you could just tell them that my class is the one that uses all the other content areas to help you understand it.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, cool. So finally got my kids and their parents excited about it. But we all know parents really care about reading, writing, and arithmetic. So let's
tell
talk
you.
about math first. Yeah?
When I was primarily a science teacher, I would say math is just a tool that scientists use.
Yes.
And now that I'm a primary math teacher, I say, oh, well, math is what lets science happen. So you can spin it however you want.
Every subject area teacher does that. Every single one of them. Like, without me,
Right.
Voltaire means nothing.
Yes,
it's like,
yes,
okay,
yes.
Calm
Yes.
down, Shakespeare.
Okay.
Sit down.
So,
Okay, so math stuff.
Okay. So there are all kinds of activities that you can do throughout the summer that involve numbers in multiple forms, like cooking or shopping or playing games or measuring. Oh my goodness, measure. There's all kinds of fun games and apps to make math more enjoyable or engaging. We're going to say this for all of those subjects, right? Consider bringing in a tutor if that's something that you can afford, or finding a math center or a tutoring center where they can go and it's a different salient adult working on the topic.
Yes.
Because I have a perfect 11-year-old daughter. There's nothing wrong with her. And she would never blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. The year that we were at home and homeschooled together, I'm surprised both of us made it with hair still left on our head.
Right.
It is hard when it's your own kid. There's a different dynamic when you bring in another adult. But I know that there's a fee associated with that. So that's not something that every family can keep up with.
Right.
Again, exposure to all different number forms. And when I mean that, I talk about fractions and decimals, mixed numbers, variables. If you are baking something together, don't measure only in the increments that it's asking for. If it says it needs a cup and a half of milk, do not get out the 1 cup and the half cup measure.
Oh, I never do that.
Get out the
I'm
quarter
always-
cup
yeah,
and
I
say,
get
how
out-
many of these do we need?
I use the 1 because that way I only have to wash one. I'm so lazy that I'd rather do the math than
Right.
actually wash the dish.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Just like I said before about learning for learning's sake, do math for math's sake. Pick a problem and say, hey, let's do this together. It might take 5 minutes for you to work through that 2-step equation together, but that's 5 minutes that you spend on a rich math discussion for only the reason of doing math.
I know, I love that.
Yeah, it validates what your kids are doing all year long. It's not, when am I ever going to use this? It's, I love math just because it's math. Now, even if
And-
you don't, listen up
Yeah.
very carefully. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name, will never say I am not a math person ever again in front of my children.
Here's why you can't say that. Because it's not true. You're lying to your kids. If you do any adult thing, pay a bill, go to the grocery store,
Buy gas.
anything like that, that is math. Even if it's just counting, it's still math. If it's money, it's math. You can't say that. And what you're doing is you're telling your kid it's okay for them to not be a math person too. So they'll just go, oh, well, my mom doesn't really get it, so it's fine if I know. Or you're making yourself look like a hypocrite, because then you are coming down on your kids for not getting the math when you also refuse to try to get the math because you're, quote, not a math person.
Right.
Don't do that. Not
Is it
cool.
okay that their homework is something that you don't remember how to do or maybe
Totally.
never learned?
Totally
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Because now you're going to go, I'm curious, let's go learn it together.
Yes.
And you can use your Google machine, and then you're going to find probably Khan Academy, and he's going to talk you through how to do it. And you and Salman Khan and your kid are going to sit there together and do
learn.
a problem all
Just
together, and it's going to be great.
For the sake of learning. And let me tell you this, we've said it before, you got to get the PhotoMath app because you just take a picture
Oh,
of the problem
yes.
and it tells you step by step one algorithm to solve it. Not the only algorithm, but one. And you
right.
can use that to develop another. And maybe you and your child might think of a math problem 2 different ways, and you can talk about how you thought about it.
If you come to the same answers different ways, it's
Right.
okay. But also getting mad at your kid about new math. The math is not new.
Right.
The math is just now you're having to understand why that math is working.
We can go into like a whole tirade
Oh, it could be an
about
entire
math
episode.
and how it's changed and da-da-da-da. The math itself has not changed. What has changed is math instruction. And the only thing that I want you to hear from this whole episode is don't say you're not a math person. Don't say it. Say,
Right.
oh, I don't know how to do that yet. Or,
Right.
man, I learned that when I was 13, but I just don't remember. Can you talk to me through it? Let's see if I
Or-
can make some sense of it.
Right.
That's what
You can
math
say-
is. Sense
right.
making.
You can
Can
say
you
math was
reason
hard for me.
through?
Right.
Yes, math was hard for me.
Math was hard for me. That's okay. You may say that. You may not say I'm not a math person. Math was hard for me. It's
I
fine.
wish I had you as a math teacher when I was growing up. Wow, you really explain it clearly. What a
Mhm.
different statement that is. All right.
How empowering for your
Yes.
kid too. Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on. I think we both need to talk about reading. I want to talk primarily about the writing one, but they kind of go together. So let's start with reading first. I'm not a fan of summer book lists unless there's choice involved.
Absolutely.
Because kids are not in school, they are not required to read, especially older kids. They're not required to read certain texts at certain times. So this is your opportunity to find the things that your kids are interested in and use their interest to make a summer reading list. Most libraries these days, you can peruse the shelves online before you even go to the library. Or you can do what I do, which is peruse the shelves, check out the books, and then just go pick them up.
Yes.
You don't have to go in.
If you live in Austin, the Austin Library lets you do that. You can build a whole text set and check it all out, and it'll just be waiting for you on the shelf.
So
at the front.
Put together a whole summer reading list with your kid, or just say, what are you interested in right now? Let's find 3 books on that topic. And then you have 2 weeks and you're going to read those 3 books. Now, if you can, check out 2 of them and then you can read together. Also, I'm going to say this now. Do not prevent your child from reading graphic novels.
Oh, please.
Old people, if you're an old person, you're going to be like, you mean those comic books? They're not comic books. It's not the same thing.
And even if
it is
they
a
were,
comic book, who cares?
Your
because
kid
there's
is
still
reading.
dialogue and they're reading. So it doesn't matter. If they want to read a book about Minecraft, who cares? They're reading a book. Don't complain about it and don't shut it down. Let them read their book, especially over the summer. Who cares? If they're reading, go with it, right? Mine likes to read let them read it. Now, I'm going to also say schedule a regular reading time. This goes back to that routine piece.
Right.
Schedule a regular reading time every day. At my first school where I was teaching, we used to call it SSR, which stood for Sustained Silent Reading. And I always told my kids, listen, 6th graders, I love you dearly, but I have my book right here, and y'all need to sit down, shut up, and read. Okay? Because that is what SSR is in my room, and I'm going to read my book because I love this book. I think I was reading Gone Girl in front of them, and at one point I was like, and one of my kids looked at me and she goes, was it so good, Biz? Was it a twist? And I was like, sorry guys, it was so good. And they like,
but
you have to do it too.
Modeling. Yes.
Right. But you have to do it too. If you're going to have SSR, it can't be, okay, my kid has SSR and then I'm going to go do the laundry. Or I'm going to like finally sit here with my coffee and just scroll through Instagram. No, it has to be family sustained silent reading. It has to be family sit down, shut up and read time. And you can build up. Start with 7 minutes, then go to 9, then make it to 30. Hopefully, in a few weeks you'll get to 30, and then you can extend it from there. But you have to do it with them. Otherwise, they're not going to participate with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Transition?
Yeah, I'm going to add this one other thing.
Okay.
If your little one is learning to read, there are some books that are helpful. One of the ones I'm thinking of right now is Teach Your Child to Read in like 18 Easy Lessons or something like that. I am looking over here because I have it, but it was recommended to me by, personally, which I have to say, one of the perks of my job. I work with a literacy company and we do webinars, and I've met Dr. Anita Archer, who's a very famous.
Wow,
yes,
you're so fancy.
Yes, and she recommended this book, and she's an incredibly kind woman. But I would highly recommend that one. But also, there's nothing wrong with making flashcards and having your child practice flashcards of sight words. You can look up a list of like the 100 most common sight words. They are everywhere, all over Pinterest. Tons of first grade teachers have them. There's lots of them. And you can just make flashcards. And again, start slow. Okay, we're going to practice this for 1 minute today. Okay, we're going to practice for 2 minutes. And then you can start, when they start knowing all of them, then you can start to race and see how many they can get in 5 minutes, or how many they can get.
And that's the kind of thing that you can throw in your bag and have whenever you're waiting around somewhere.
Yep. And there's also some really great tutorials on Instagram of teachers who are like, here's why this word ends with CK and this word ends with C and this word ends with K. Like it's really, really great stuff that you can find online.
That's awesome. So my 4-year-old has learned to write his name, but is definitely not in the place where he's learning to read yet, which is okay. Totally fine. I know he will learn to read. But that doesn't change that we can still have family in the vegetable reading time, because he knows that when you hold a book, there are things to look at, there are things to talk about, there are things to learn. And so he might go through 15 books in the time it takes for me to read one chapter, but he's still holding a book, interacting with it, and I can ask him questions about it and we can discuss it.
And you can make your own scavenger hunt of a book. Where's the title? Where's the author? Where, things like that you can use to help kids identify parts of a book. That's
Love it. Love it.
Okay. Writing.
Okay.
This is where my heart lies. Over the summer, you'd be amazed at how many kids come back in the fall and they're like, oh man, that callus on my finger is gone from where I used to hold my pencil. Yes. Or like, it hurts to write, miss. I'm not used to writing like this. And you're like, what? Yeah. You're not used to writing? Like what? I'm going to say, let's start by encouraging your child to keep a journal over the summer. I love the idea personally of a joint journal where parent creates a prompt and kid responds and then parent answers back. Yes. You can just write letters back and forth to each other. There's lots of great sentence starters that you can use for reflection. Again, just a quick Google search, reflection journal prompts for kids, and you will find a whole bunch of things. With little ones, you can say, okay, pick up 3 leaves. Okay, now we're going to do trace art over the leaves or whatever. You just make sure that you're putting something in their hands and they're using it on a piece of paper.
So Abby and I have a book that is full of mother-daughter prompts. And I'll say, okay, let's do the book. And so for 10 minutes, we'll do 1 page together. Quick, it's easy. We keep it on the coffee table. So when we're feeling like it, we can pull it out and work on it. And because there's so many different prompts in it, we don't have to work through it page by page. We can kind of skip around and do what's interesting to us.
Love it. You can also, especially for younger ones or kids who really dislike writing, have them draw. Drawing is fun too. Sam and I have one of those draw with mom books, and I draw part of the picture and then he draws the other part of the picture and then we put it together.
I love it.
Yeah. You can also make this go along with their reading, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that was one of the things I love to do.
Those things don't need to be divorced. There's no reason for it to be separate, but if you want it to be, it can, right? Like, it all depends on what's right for your family and your child.
Right. For older kids, they might go, I might have to do a reading log. It's a reading journal. So they might hate that idea, and that's totally fine. But for the younger ones, it's okay to say, like, okay, for your journal prompt today, I want you to tell me what you read about. You're not grading it. You're not looking for spelling. All you're doing is making sure that they're actually practicing writing. And if you do feel an urge to correct, I'm going to encourage you to find one mistake only and correct that.
On a sticky note. Don't dare write on their work.
Don't write on their work, right? Or if you're walking by and you're like, oh, I finished my journal prompt. How's yours coming or whatever, and you see that the word this has the letters inverted or something, you can go, you know what? I see this all looks so great. Let's fix this one word right here. And then I think I'll understand exactly what you're trying to tell me. And that's it. You only fix one thing, because otherwise you're nitpicking and you don't want to do that. Right.
They should not be punished for doing the right thing.
No. And it's not your job to grade. And if you do, you're going to, unless you're a homeschool mom, which is a different situation. Yes. But if you're not a homeschool parent, it's not your job, and they're going to start to be mad at you for doing it. So don't bother. It's just your job to guide in this situation, right? I'm also going to encourage you to write in front of your kids.
Yes, but this goes along with everything we've been saying. You got to model it.
Right. And it can't be typing and it's not text to speech, right? I write all day long. That's a lot of what I do for my job. But also my child knows that I'm writing on the computer, and it's not the same as what he's doing in class. So I need to be better about modeling, actually writing things down in front of my kids. And that might just be me opening up my planner and writing down the things that are in my phone calendar so that I have it in 2 places and not just one. But that's still writing. It counts.
Well, and you can go and pick up some postcards and say, hey, let's write to so-and-so. I'll write one, you write one. Postcards are tiny. I love that idea.
Yeah, but I love that idea.
You can sit there and work on it. I am doing a pen pal book club with a 10-year-old this summer.
I love that.
And I mean, it's not my kid.
Right.
But she wants to read a book that I also want to read. And I said, okay, you read it. And she said, well, I'm going to be at camp most of the summer. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll be pen pals. We'll
Oh,
set up
that's
a
so
schedule.
cute.
So we are printing off a calendar and writing down when we're going to read what chapter. And then we're going to write to each other about what we experienced.
I love that. That's so cute.
And I will be writing those letters in front of my children.
Right. When my kid first went to the post office, it was like a big deal. Like we wrote him a letter, and then we like were able to help him put it in the mail and all that kind of stuff. And then for his preschool, they had him draw a picture, and they had to mail it back to the house. And like, yes, it costs money to mail things. I get that. But you can do it differently. You can still address it and all those things and just not mail it. Just put it underneath their door. Like it
Right.
doesn't have to. But also, it is really fun if you're a kid to get mail.
Yeah. So if you happen to know someone who's not living in your house,
Yeah.
maybe you pick up on saying, okay, well, I'm going to be pen pals with so-and-so. Do you want to do it?
I love that idea. I'm going to make my kid write to his aunts that are not living
Yeah.
in town. I love it. So there's a whole bunch of ways to do this. And you'll notice the only one that costs money really is the tutoring one. And I get that you may feel like, you know what, I'm not equipped to do this. I can't do it. And that's fine. That's fine. You can build a routine though.
Mm-hmm.
And you can encourage conversations at the very least about what's happening with the tutor so that you're engaged in what's going on. And just because the kid is with the tutor once a week doesn't mean that you don't have to participate in any sort of summer learning. You do have to participate in some way,
Right.
shape, or form. Maybe you're just not doing the hard stuff.
Be curious. Discover
It's
things
okay.
together.
Right.
Remember a few weeks ago, my obsession was about worms.
Yeah, you weirdo.
It was super weird, but it was so interesting to learn about these 9-foot worms. I'm telling you, you got a kid in your house under the age of 13, they are going to want to learn about 9-foot worms. Even
Gross.
if it's so gross. Find an article.
I picked up a worm today. Did I tell you that? I picked up a worm today because it was in the street.
Oh, you saved it.
I saved it. I put it back in the dirt.
You saved an annelid.
An annelid? That's what they are.
All right. Well, as you're going into summer, know that you don't have to worry about building up your child's knowledge more than what your teacher told you need to focus on.
Right.
If you were not given specific guidance as to what to do over the summer, your job is to establish a routine, model learning for learning's sake, and turn your household into a curious place.
Oh, I love that. Say them again.
Model, learn for learning's sake, turn your household into a curious place.
Oh my God, I was really hoping you were going to forget.
Did you hear the pause?
You were like,
Did you hear the pause? There was a pause.
oh, my voice is clearly going. So we're going to wrap this up. Y'all can do this. The summer slide is just a place to put water on and go play. It's not a thing that's going to happen in your house with the kids' brains, okay?
Make good choices.
Save the worms. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.